Number 10 is going to be Doctrine by Pestilence. This is probably the most controversial pick on the entire list that I'm going to go through. A lot of people really dislike this album. A lot of people lambasted it, in fact. And to be perfectly honest, the first time I listened to it, I didn't like it very much either. The vocal stylings sort of take some getting used to, but the more that I listened to the album, and the more that I sort of delved into the details, the more that I actually enjoyed it. And this doesn't, of course, live up to something like Spheres, which is my favorite Pestilence album, but I do think that it's quite an improvement over the last installment, which was Resurrection Macabre, which I didn't like very much. But if you like Pestilence, give this one a shot. So here's a clip. Number 9 is going to be The Digital Veil by the Human Abstract. Now, this is an interesting choice for me because I generally like to avoid metalcore as much as I possibly can. But the Human Abstract is a bit different due to the fact that, first and foremost, they're a progressive metal band before they're a metalcore band. So all of the elements that you would look for in a progressive metal band are going to be there. All of the odd time signature changes, all of the insane musical wankery, all of those types of things are going to be there. I think that they overall implement those elements into this album better than they did in their previous albums, particularly Nocturne. There's a large neoclassical influence, so if you like Malmsteen-esque guitar wankery, sweep picking, that type of a thing, definitely check out this album. Number 8 is going to be Natural Causes by Alarum. Now, Alarum is particularly known as being a progressive metal and a fusion band. They are heavily influenced by jazz, jazz fusion, so you can definitely detect a lot of the jazz influences in the music. Particularly in this album, probably even more so than the previous album, which was Eventuality, which was also a fantastic album. I actually think that I like Eventuality slightly more than I like Natural Causes. But if you like bands like Cynic, bands that implement a lot of fusion elements into their music, then I definitely think that you should check this one out. So to kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about, check out a clip. Number 7 is Aslan from Neuraxis. Neuraxis is a technical / melodic death metal band from Canada. They're pretty consistent with regard to kind of coming out with really good albums. The last album that they released, Thin Line Between, was very good, and then the one before that is actually my favorite of theirs, which was Trilateral Progression. I definitely recommend checking those out as well. The one complaint that I sometimes have about Neuraxis is that I think that they undermix the bass into the music, and that's somewhat bothersome, but to be honest, the riffs that they actually write are so catchy that sometimes you don't even really notice that the bass isn't there, or that you can't hear it very well. So that's definitely one of the strong points of the album. To give you an idea of what I'm talking about with the catchy riffs, check out this clip from Savior and Destroyer. Number 6 is The Great Mass by Septic Flesh. Septic Flesh is known particularly for the implementation of symphonic and orchestral elements into their music. In fact, they're probably the most well-known band who really incorporates those types of elements into their music. They probably do it the best out of all the other bands that have attempted to do it too. Now with The Great Mass, I think that they probably implement those elements into the music better than they ever have before. I think that they're gradually beginning to progress and kind of finding a happy medium between the metal, so the blackened even death metal, and the orchestra elements. And I think that with this one they reached a perfect equilibrium, and it's definitely just a really pleasure. It's definitely a pleasure to listen to pretty much all the way through. So definitely give it a listen and see if you like the clip. Number 5 is The Destroyers of All by Ulcerate. Now this album, you should be forewarned that it's a challenging experience. It's a very draining listening experience. This isn't something that you're just going to want to throw on in the background or put on when you're on your way to work or something like that. This thing is the type of album that you're going to want to put on some good headphones on and then just be immersed in the experience. It's extremely atmospheric. It's extremely brooding. There's just a constant feeling of this buildup of this kind of unrelenting angst, and you constantly feel like you're on the edge of your seat and that something terrible is going to happen to you at any time. There's just this constant kind of brooding dissonance going on with the guitars. They're very slow, building up to something, and you don't know what. But like I said, it's a very challenging experience. But if you like your metal, if you're Thinking Man's metal fan, and you like your metal to be challenging, and you want something different rather than just a standard death metal fare, then definitely check this one out. Number 4 is Fables of the Sleepless Empire by Unexpect. Now it's extremely difficult to actually classify these guys in a genre. If I had to do it, I would probably say it's something like extreme progressive avant-garde experimental metal or something like that. And the best way to probably, in the most accurate way and the most forceful way to actually describe this album is just by saying, holy shit. Holy shit. That's pretty much the best way to summarize what's going on here. There's so much happening all at once and throughout the entire running time that it's a dizzying experience. You don't know, your ears don't know what to listen to because there's so much going on all at once. It's like if you were to put Dream Theater, Opeth, Frank Zappa, the Dillinger Escape Plan, and Nightwish all together and put them on acid and then tell them to produce an album. This is what they would come up with. It's an insane listen, so listen to this clip and see if you can get an idea of what I'm talking about. Number 3 is The Unconsciousness of Living by Logicist. Logicist is a progressive / technical death metal band from Italy. They're one of my favorite bands, and they're also one of the most underrated metal bands that are currently producing music, at least as far as I'm concerned. They've released 3 albums so far. This is the 3rd one, and I think that The Unconsciousness of Living is probably on the same level as the other two, Subjective and The Inside Eye, which are both absolutely fantastic. They have a lot of people make very significant comparisons with them to Death and a lot of the bands coming out of the Florida death metal scene, Death, Atheist, Cynic, bands like that. They do sound a lot like them, but they do add their own kind of unique touch to the music, which you can definitely use to use as a distinction between the other bands. So if you like those bands, and if you like just super kick-ass progressive metal, definitely give these guys a shot. Number 2 is Omnivium by Obscura. This shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone that's familiar with Obscura. They're probably the best metal band currently making music right now. This is, in my opinion. I don't really have any complaints about this album. It's amazing. It's intelligent, it's progressive, it's hard, it's interesting, it's original. I have all sorts of adjectives to describe this album, but in order to actually get an idea of just how good it is, you really have to give it a listen. If you like progressive metal, if you like metal in general, I think that you have to like this album, and I really just cannot say enough good things about it. Highly recommended. One of the best albums, obviously one of the best albums of the year, at least metal albums of the year. So definitely give this a clip, a listen, and see if you like it. Okay, number 1 pick, the best album of the year. The Animation of Entomology by Blotted Science. Now, the interesting thing about this album is that it's not officially a full-length album. It's an EP. It's about 25 minutes long, but I don't care. As far as I'm concerned, this album has more outrageously amazing music in it than albums that might be 50 times as long as this album. This album is so amazing that I had to have my face reconstructed due to the fact that it fucking melted off my face. And I don't know what to say about this album. Ron Jarzombek and Bobby Jarzombek, the Jarzombek brothers, everything that they've done, as far as I'm concerned, is complete gold. I think that they are the musicians in progressive metal. You can say what you want about Dream Theater, about anyone else, but I don't think that anyone is as consistent, is as interesting and original, or as mind-numbingly progressive and technical as the Jarzombek brothers. You have to listen to this album. It's not very accessible. If you don't like progressive music, you probably won't like it. Your brain is going to explode or implode. I don't want to go on too long about it because this video is going to go on too long anyway, but you have to listen to the album. Check out this clip to get an idea of what I'm talking about. Thanks for watching.